Welcome, Sundry readers. I hope you enjoy today's story. Please remember to subscribe. It really helps me out. Happy listening. New Faces, New Friends by Arleta Richardson. Chapter 5, Augusta's Suspicions. As I went into the service on Sunday morning, it was with a conscious feeling of relief that I would not be seeing Hudson Curtis today. He was busy with his own parish. I looked around at my friends and thought what a diverse lot they were. Augusta, proper and peppery. The Graysons, warm and friendly. All the parents of my school children who had been such loyal supporters. And Elizabeth and Colleen, who sat beside me in the pew. I thanked the Lord for leading me to this town and this time, then settled back to listen to Len's sermon. "Come and have dinner with us, Mabel," Ma Williams said as we left the church. "I haven't had a chance to visit with you in over a week. What have you been doing with yourself?"
"Sarah Jane and I are sewing baby clothes,"
I told her.
"Between sessions of canning, that is. I thought I had a smaller garden this year, but it isn't taking any less time."
I was cautious not to mention the time that Hudson had taken care of. It was awkward planning ahead before I spoke so that I wouldn't say anything that I shouldn't. I didn't like it. On Monday morning, as I worked on the laundry, a familiar face appeared over the clothesline. "Good morning, Mabel," Hudson said. "Did you have a good service yesterday?"
"Yes, Hudson, and you?"
"Fine. Our church doesn't look as full as it used to since we enlarged it, but I'm hoping for a bigger congregation soon." I wanted to tell him that calling more in his own community and less on me might help his cause, but I didn't have the nerve. Was Colleen in church yesterday?"
"Yes, she was there."
"Did she sit with anyone in particular?"
"Why don't you ask her, Hudson? You've been seeing her, haven't you?"
"Well, yes, but I don't want anyone to think I'm prying into her business. There are some things you don't ask a lady."
"I think you're prying, and I'm a lady too," I replied sharply. "I sympathize with you, but I can't act as go-between for you and Colleen."
Hudson looked contrite. "I'm sorry, Mabel. I know you can't. I just wondered if you thought I had a chance with her. Do you?" I looked at him without answering. "All right, I know. Ask her myself."
"Right. If you'll excuse me, Hudson, I have another load of washing to bring out."
"Oh, let me do it. It may be too heavy for you." He galloped toward the porch where the basket stood. When it had been deposited under the clothesline, he twirled his hat self-consciously and made one last request. "You won't tell anyone how foolish I've been, will you? I would hate for all this to get back to my members. You know how people talk."
"I will not tell anyone," I said, "but I can't speak for others who may have seen you prowling around North Branch for the past 2 weeks. What are they going to think you've been doing?"
"I don't believe anyone has seen me," he said. "I've been very careful. Listen, I'll go now. Thanks for everything." He backed away, then headed for his buggy. I watched him leave with no regret. A few minutes later, Sarah Jane came into the yard.
"Was that Hudson Curtis I met on the road?"
she asked.
"I saw him turn out of your lane."
"Yes, that was Hudson."
Sarah Jane looked at me oddly.
"What are we going to can this morning?"
"Green beans. Len picked a lot of them before he left."
Sarah Jane helped me hang the rest of the clothes, and we went into the kitchen. We chatted about the same things as usual, but it was not a comfortable visit. I knew she had deliberately refrained from questioning me about Hudson, and that was not like Sarah Jane. She was always able to pry a secret out of me. I was heartily sick of Hudson and his problems. By the time Len came home for supper, I was feeling quite cross. "The beans look nice," he said. "I'll carry them to the cellar after supper."
"That's not all I've done today,"
I snapped.
"I've had to chase Lilac off the porch at least 5 times. Do you see the smudges on the window where she rested her nose while she watched me work?"
Len looked startled. "I can clean those off," he said. "Why didn't you lock her in the pasture?"
"I didn't want to take the time to herd her out there, that's why. She's your cow. Can't you be responsible for her?"
"I'll see that the chain is on the gate in the morning. Would you like to sit down and let me put the supper on? I'm afraid you're getting too tired." Len looked anxious.
"I'm not tired, and I can put my own supper on,"
I said, and burst into tears. Len attempted to comfort me, but since he didn't know what was the matter and I couldn't tell him, he wasn't very successful. We ate supper in silence. On Wednesday, Sarah Jane and I went to town for the mail and the paper.
"Remember how we used to go to town every Saturday and haunt the store?" she asked. "I think we could have done an inventory from memory."
"We never had much money, but that didn't keep us from shopping, did it?"
I replied. Dorcas Gage joined us as we looked for buttons. "I have some new white nainsook for a little dress," she said. "Have you started on those yet?"
"Not yet. We're still on flannel petticoats and nightgowns,"
Sarah said.
"And diapers," I added. "Ma has some dresses that Violet hardly wore at all, so I'll probably start out with those. I want to make some myself, though."
"I'm sure your babies are going to be warm next winter," Dorcas laughed. "Between the two of you, I'm down to almost no flannel. Have you started knitting yet?"
"No, but our mothers have. We have things that will never wear out."
"Speaking of wearing out, isn't that Hudson Curtis marking time in front of the store?" Dorcas asked. It was. He paced back and forth, stopping occasionally to peer through the window. "I declare he turns up every time you come to town," Dorcas said to me. "Have you noticed that?" I could feel the blood rushing to my face, and Sarah Jane faded away toward the back of the store.
"His parents do live in North Branch, so I guess he has a right to be here,"
I answered, a little more sharply than I intended. "Of course he has. It just seems a little curious." She changed the subject abruptly. "Well, are you ladies coming to the strawberry social tomorrow night? The shortcake will cost 10 cents a dish. The ladies hope to make enough for a new cloth for the altar table."
"We'll be there all right,"
Sarah Jane said as she came back to the counter.
"You couldn't keep Len or Thomas away from any social, especially one that features strawberries. Here, Mabel, I found the pins you were looking for."
While Dorcas was counting the change, I glanced out the window to see if Hudson had disappeared. He had not. We couldn't stay in the store all morning, so I took a deep breath and marched toward the door. Sarah Jane trailed along behind me. When we got outside, I nodded to Hudson, and he tipped his hat. "Good morning, ladies."
"Good morning, Hudson,"
Sarah Jane replied. I said nothing, but headed straight for the post office. I was conscious of the hangdog look on Hudson's face as he gazed after us, but there was no pity in my heart. The man was old enough to look after his own affairs.
"Maybe not smart enough," I thought, "but certainly old enough."
The postmaster handed us the mail and the paper, along with a bit of news.
"Got a new business coming into North Branch,"
he announced.
"A jeweler from back east put an ad in the newspaper this week, and he won't even be here until the end of the month. Guess he figures this is where the money will be, what with all the lumber we're shipping out. I hear tell there's over 1,000,000 feet of logs at the mill yard." "No need to spend time reading the paper when you can get all the latest straight from the main source," Sarah Jane remarked as we left. "Save your eyesight for important matters."
She did, however, open the paper when we were in the buggy and headed for home.
"Take that back about you saving your eyesight," she said. "Look at this."
She spread out a page with an ad that took up most of the space. "Spectacles and eyeglasses. We would like you to compare these prices with prices charged by peddlers. Also, to remember when we sell you a pair of specs or eyeglasses, we give you the privilege of exchanging inside of 3 months. A common spec filled for 15 cents. Something better, steel frame for 75 cents. Others charge $1 to $2 for same. A nice nickel frame with A number 1 lens, $150 with case. Gold specs, $550 to $850. Something you cannot tell from gold, $2. Eyeglasses, 25 cents per pair, up. Jackson Jewelry, coming. July 29th, 1895.
Almost makes you wish you needed glasses just to take advantage of the bargain,
I said.
I imagine some folks will discover they do.
I felt bad about being so irritable with Len, and I baked a pie for him as a peace offering. I would have liked to blame my bad mood on my condition, but I knew that wasn't the problem. I also knew that the Lord was not pleased with my attitude. I had not been praying about this business with Hudson. Only I were free to discuss it with Len, but I had promised that I would not. I had just put the pie in the oven when I heard footsteps on the porch.
If that is Lilac again, she is going to wish she'd stayed in the pasture,
I fumed and rushed for the door. It was Augusta, and I nearly knocked her over. I figured you'd be glad to see me, but I didn't expect that kind of welcome, she said.
I'm sorry, Augusta. Come on in. I thought it was someone else.
She sat down and took off her hat. Thought I'd better come by and see if you were all right. Haven't seen you since last Sunday.
Me? I'm fine. I've been busy.
Mabel, are you and Len having a problem of some kind?
Oh, yes,
I said. Augusta held up her hand. Don't tell me about it. I'd rather not know. I love you both, and I don't want to take sides. Show me what you've been sewing for the baby. I brought out the baby clothes and told Augusta what else I was planning to make. Then I shared a letter I'd gotten from Ma.
Won't you stay for supper, Augusta?
I asked her.
I have a pie in the oven.
No, thank you. I need to get back. The air is heavy. Feels like we might be brewing a storm. I walked out to the porch with her and looked at the sky. It did look a bit ominous. Where is Len working this afternoon?
He had some calls to make, I believe. He took his father's buggy since he has to stop back there to do the milking.
Augusta left and I stood watching the sky. As I turned to go inside, I thought I caught sight of a now familiar figure moving through the trees along the river.
But it couldn't be Hudson,
I thought. If he had come out to see me, he wouldn't hesitate to come in. I closed the door and began to peel the potatoes for supper. End of chapter 5.